What's up, boys? Welcome to another episode of Ran When Parked. I'm kind of looking for something to do today. It's kind of a crappy day. It's been raining nonstop, and what I had planned on doing today was outside, which I don't really want to do now because I'm going to get soaking wet. So maybe you guys remember, I think I mentioned it in one of the early videos, that I got a few vehicles sitting around the property. Things I haven't started yet, things that are just waiting for me, or things that I've kind of started, but I got a lot of finishing work to do. And one of those things is a 1951 Willys M38 Army Jeep, Korean War Army Jeep. And that is right here. Now, I've had this thing for a few years. It's actually pretty solid. It really has minimal rust. The chassis is mint, and the fenders have, a little bit of rust, but the tub is awesome. When I got it, it didn't run and drive. I did a little bit of work. I got it running and driving. I drove it around the property. I did a little off-roading, but then it just sat here. It's been sitting here for probably about 2 years, 18 months, something like that. It hasn't run. And for those of you that follow me on Instagram, I posted some pictures that we had a hurricane here, some serious weather, and it actually did significant damage to the property. And one of the things it did was it broke off this oak tree up here. You can see these branches on the Jeep are actually part of a much bigger branch up there. And I got really lucky because it got hung up in the trees, and it didn't fall down and crush this thing, because it would have, for sure. It's right above it. Obviously, it's dangling in it right now. And there was actually something else parked next to it that I'm going to show you guys soon that I already moved and got out of the way, kind of into a safe area. So I got to move this thing anyway, but I kind of feel bad. This thing's solid, and I've just kind of ignored it. It's just sitting here. It's a really cool Jeep. So what I think we're going to do today is I'm going to clean this thing out a little bit. I'm going to fill up this flat tire. I'm going to hook up my quad. I'm going to drag it out of here, and we're going to see if we can bring it up to the shop, and I'll show you a little bit more about this because it's got some pretty cool stuff going on already. And then we'll see if we can get it running and driving, and maybe go do some off-roading in the woods today or maybe tomorrow. So that should make a pretty fun episode here. So I'm gonna go get the quad, I'm gonna go get the air tank, and we're gonna get after moving this thing. All right, guys, so we got this thing rescued. I got it up to the shop. I got it all cleaned and vacuumed out so we can kind of get moving here. Now, I think I mentioned this before, but this is a 51 Willys M38, or at least I think it's mostly an M38. I think like the body's an M38 and the frame's a CJ3A. I used to know, but I can't remember now. So I've had this thing for like 3-4 years, something like that. And I didn't even really need it when I got it, but a family member had it, and I forget how exactly much I paid for it, but it wasn't very much, so it was a good deal, and I'm glad I got it. It's pretty solid. I don't think you're gonna see them this solid coming out of farm fields and stuff like where I got this thing. I mean, the corners are really good. It doesn't have any Bondo in it. The bed is real solid. There's nothing going on down in there. So this thing's pretty cool. For one, it's got an original Ramsey PTO winch on the back, which from what they tell me is pretty rare. I don't know anything about it. Also, it's got a Pontiac steering column and wheel, and the reason why it has that is because it has power steering. So that's a Saginaw box. I've done those things, put them on Jeeps and Land Cruisers. They work pretty well, but the lines are looped on this one, so it's not doing anything. Now, this thing also has a small block Chevy under the hood. I was told this is a 350, but let's be honest, it's probably a 307 or 305, 302, something like that. But I don't really care, because the last thing this thing needs is more power. So it's got, when I got this, it didn't run at all. And I replaced the whole ignition, distributor cap, rotor, wires, plugs, etc. I put a new alt in it, I put a new water pump in it, I put new hoses in it, thermostat. I got an aluminum radiator out of a Honda Civic, I think it was. And TIG welded some new mounts onto the bottom and things to put it in here, so that all works well. It had a different carb on it, a small base circle Rochester, which I switched for a big base circle Rochester, which is just more common. And I machined this custom billet aluminum adapter plate to get that done. I got it running, and eventually it had some other problems. So I don't really remember what it was. It might be the carb needs to be rebuilt or something, I don't know. But it died on me, and I just parked it under the tree over there years ago. Now, behind the small block, it has a 4-speed of some kind. I think it's a Muncie 4-speed, but I really don't know. I can maybe put a picture of the side of it on my Instagram or something, and if someone knows more about these old school trannies and could tell me which one it is, that's great, because it might be a Saginaw. Again, I'm not really an old school guy, so I don't really know, but it is a 4-speed. Behind that, it has the factory Jeep transfer case. Again, I don't really know too much about that. I assume it's a Dana unit of some kind, but high-low works, four-wheel drive works. And then it's got the PTO case behind that, which actually has PTO shafts going forward and backward, which is a really cool setup. Other than that, it's pretty complete. I actually have the original top for it, which is pretty cool too. The only thing it doesn't have is seats, which isn't that big of a deal to me because I'm 6'2" and I don't fit in this thing anyway. So eventually we'll probably wind up notching this and putting the seat a little bit further back. That's about it. There's not too much else to it. It's just a really good, solid Jeep. Again, I'm not really a Jeep guy. Historically, I've been more of a Land Cruiser guy, an FJ40 guy. But I got it. The price was right. Here we are. And we're going to get it running today. So I'm going to go get some stuff put together, and then we're going to get back out here and see if we can get this thing fired up. All right, guys. So to get started here, we're going to check the oil. We're going to check the water. I'm going to pull the plugs, and depending on what they look like, either clean or replace them. And then I'll put a battery in it and turn it over a little bit. And then I'm going to put a fuel cell from a boat in the back here and hook that up because I know this thing is just all full of crap and I've had problems with it before. It's got rust in the bottom and stuff and I just don't feel like dealing with it. So we'll do that and then we'll turn it over and see what we got. All right, guys, so we got power, it's turning over, we got fuel, oil's good. Problem is there's no spark. So I diagnosed the coil looks good. This is a points ignition, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull the radiator or the distributor cap off and check on the points. Like I said, it has been sitting for a while, so it could be condensation, it could be a little bit of corrosion in there or whatever. So we'll check on that next. Also, I'm just now noticing that, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this on the camera, but the carb is leaking a good amount out of the primaries there, so it's probably going to flood and die. And in hindsight, maybe that's what was going on with it before, and that's why I parked it. I don't really remember, but worst case, I do have a carb kit for this thing, so we can replace those gaskets in there, maybe the needle and seat if that's the problem, and then we can move forward. But for now, I'm going to pull the distributor cap off and try to diagnose the ignition. Alright guys, so points are out, and again, you're probably not going to be able to see this, but we definitely got some corrosion on the back side of the points on the condenser side. So I'm just going to go ahead and clean this up with a little bit of emery paper, and then we should be good to go. We'll diagnose it a little bit from there, but let's hope for the best. Alright guys, so it's clearly got spark now. It's kind of backfiring through the intake, so we solved that problem for sure. The next thing is probably it doesn't want to go because the whole time I was doing that I was cycling the key on and off, and like I said, it's just pumping fuel down through the primaries here. So before I rip this carb off and rebuild it, I definitely want to see it run, and I don't think that it's too much fuel to run it. I think that it probably just got flooded while I was farting with the ignition. So next thing I'm going to do is pull a plug. I'm going to double check and see what it looks like, see if it's flooded out. If it is, I'll pull all the plugs, clean all the cylinders out, and then we'll give it another go. Alright guys, so the camera died, so while it was dead, I took the distributor apart again, and as it turned out, I was having a weird problem with the points. I don't know, maybe it's still having it, but it was basically intermittent spark. So I cleaned them up real well, and it seems to be fine now. The carb is still leaking fuel, but I pulled the plugs again, drained the cylinders out and everything, put new plugs in it. Killed the battery in the meantime, so I'm jump starting it now. But I think it's gonna start. I'm pretty confident it's gonna start. At least with a little bit of starting fluid. I'm gonna hook the fuel pump up right now because I unplugged it for a little while just so it didn't fill the cylinders with fuel while I was diagnosing the points. And we're gonna give it another go right now. Alright guys, so there it is. It runs. Next problem is going to be, I don't think it has any water in it, so I'll probably take care of that situation. Maybe we'll mess with the fuel a little bit more, but you guys saw it. It runs. So next thing's going to be trying to keep it running so we can drive it around a little bit here. But like I said, we'll put some water in it and see where that brings us. Alright guys, so I got it running pretty well. I ended up dialing in the carb a little bit, so now it stays idling and everything. It works all right. It still leaks fuel out of the primaries, so it'll flood if you just let it sit there, but I can get through that. I got my fancy little seat in here, my creeper pad, so now I can sit. I got my boat tank, and I ended up burning the primary cable for the starter, so I ran the spare one I had on the Honey Badger. It's hanging on the ground. The battery's in the passenger footwell. We got a jumper pack just sitting here, so we got just the right amount of sketchy going on here. So it's almost a successful mission, but before it can be completely successful, we need to go beat on this thing in the woods. So let's go do that. All right, guys, that's it for today's episode. We successfully got my old Jeep here running, and I have to admit, it runs absolutely terrible, but that's okay because I still got it moving. I still got it out in the woods, and I still had some fun with it, so that's a successful mission. Now, you will see this thing again on another episode. I definitely want to get it converted to EFI and change some things and fix some things and get it out on the road. But for now, we're going to be moving on to some other projects, one of which I haven't even showed you guys yet. I'm super excited about it. It's going to be a big project. So stay in touch, go hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and I'll see you guys next time. Okay. I have to roll down to the flat. I don't know why she died. You don't have to tell me.
Okay.